The James Bulger case always left me with that sickening feeling. That poor trusting little boy that was lured away by two older children no less, and killed haunts me. That video is so hard to watch. Innocently walking away with them holding hands. That poor little guy. His killers are still getting into trouble last I read. For me, Gabriel Fernandez. That shit fucked me up for a while. The worst part is he seemed like he had a happy home, with his great uncle and his partner. There's a picture of the three of them all smiling ear to ear. Then Gabriel was removed because the grandfather didn't like that the great uncle had a male partner. The mother and her BF, when they gained physical custody, used their homophobia as an excuse to hurt that poor child. The murder of Kelly Ann Bates happened just around the corner from where I live. She was 14, when her 48-year-old pedophile boyfriend groomed her and isolated her from her family. He then tortured her and gouged her eyes out, keeping her alive for a few more weeks, while starving her and stabbing things in her empty eye sockets, amongst other things. While the investigation is still active today, I have to go with the Delphi murders. I keep thinking about what those girls had to watch the other endure before meeting her own fate. Someone still hasn't been caught, and it's heartbreaking. The murder of Susan Powell, but not the entire case itself. It was hearing the 911 calls of the social worker who was bringing the boys for a visit, calling for help after Josh Powell lured his sons inside his home, telling them he had a big surprise, locked the doors, killed both boys with an axe, and then set the home on fire with all three of them inside. EMS was lost, so the entire time the social worker is frantically trying to explain to them where they are, who he is, and what she's worried is happening, totally powerless to do anything to stop it, and then the house went up in flames. I had to take a 6-month break from all true crime. The murder and severe parental negligence of Lacey Fletcher. She hadn't seen a doctor in over a decade and sat on one spot on the living room couch for about 12 years and passed away this January due to complications of severe neglect. Parents didn't even notice emergency services until earlier this May. One of the most downright evil and cruel cases I will remember. I hope Lacey is resting easy. Frown. She deserved a lot better than those horrific parents of hers. Jennifer Daugherty, a mentally disabled woman who was killed by a group of 6 people in Greensburg, Pennsylvania on February 11, 2010. Apparently one of the women in the group who killed Jennifer was angry over hearing her boyfriend tell Jennifer that he loved her. Jennifer had trusted the group and considered them her friends prior to this happening, which makes it particularly heartbreaking. The torture and murder were brutal and took place over an extended period of time while they did horrible things to her before finally killing her and leaving her inside a garbage can. The details of the case are horrific. Adam Walsh. He was a young boy who was taken from a Sears a few decades ago. His severed head was all that was ever found. The police lost most of the evidence and the parents never got true closure. His story inspired the fear over kidnappings that had persisted to the modern day. He is the reason parents fear allowing their children the freedom they themselves had as kids. Never forget Adam. Albert Fish is a particularly disturbing case. He was a deeply disturbed man his entire life who faced a myriad of abuse and later became a deranged and predatory sexual deviant/child killer. He had just about every taboo sexual fetish under the sun. Would have his children spank him. He enjoyed eating his own feces and was found to have hundreds of needles inserted into his groin. He would insert cotton wool with kerosene into his anus and light it. He kidnapped a young boy and cut off his penis. He kidnapped a young girl and took her to an abandoned house and killed her, claiming to have eaten parts of her. And sent a letter to the girl's parents claiming her little ass tasted so sweet. He was one of the most disturbed individuals I have ever read about, His photo online is haunting, and his nicknames the Gray Man and the Moon Maniac only further added to how terrifying this man was. The Mary Vincent case. Wasn't a murder, but still very fucked up. A very sick man picked up Mary Vincent, a hitchhiker, cut off her arms, raped her, and mutilated her just because he had the opportunity to. When he thought she was dead, he threw her off a cliff and left her to rot. I can't even imagine how scared she was trying to bury her stubs into the mud to stop the bleeding. That woman is legendary to have survived something so awful and still have the willpower to keep going.